Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been to a few of these hearings now, and the more I listen, the more I realize that this is so much more complex than you would think on the surface. So I appreciate the term walking on eggshells. So for me, I want to address the creeps. You know, I want to get to the core and say, okay, who are the real abusers and take care of it. I was partner in a CPA firm. I never had an incident that I recall. I was department head for one of the largest counties in the nation. 75% of my workforce were female. Never had an incident. In fact, the EEOC officer we became friends, but I never had to deal with him on a professional relationship. But so I've been accused of sometimes from friends for being puritanical and a prude at times. So we just kind of set a tone at the top all the time. But when I was chairman of the board in 2012, we had a creep. Senator Bates and I had to deal with a manager who, you know, is just remarkable what he was able to pull off until it came out. So I'm looking for the balance, because now I am in a career where I am in a political world, and I know that candidates can be destroyed by whispering campaigns. And I have had plenty of campaign materials that said things that were absolutely false and that were not true. And I get, you know, then you got to live with that, and your family gets to live with it. And so I'm really concerned in the whole balance of this topic of false accusations, because we can manipulate. And I have watched certain things happen. I'm going, whoa, this is unbelievable. What can be done on the other side of the equation? So I'm really concerned about that, because as an elected official, you will be page one, senator accused of, and then you will be investigated, and then you will be found that it's not true, and then you will find that the newspaper on page C23 will say charges dropped. You know, so you don't get front page charges. You know, it's like, this is so wrong. And so I want to try and make sure that we address malicious intent. So are there, besides suing for defamation, are there other remedies? Are there criminal charges? If you lie and you falsely accuse someone, are there criminal remedies? Just as, because you've now created a different kind of victim, right? So now the accused is the victim when that person may have done nothing at all, but is just part of an attack because they don't like the policies or the politics, you know, of that person. And so I'm just curious how we bring the balance in here so that we take care of the creeps, but we don't have all these scarlet letters that follow people for the rest of their lives when they were innocent.
Yeah, I appreciate that concern. And unfortunately, I don't think there is a high percentage of truly malicious, fraudulent claims being filed. That's not what we are hearing in the news. I don't believe that's what you're experiencing here in the legislature. But I will tell you that it's not uncommon to have the isolated, ill-motivated, malicious, fraudulent claim made for ulterior reasons. And it should not change the approach to investigating that complaint. And a good investigator, through credibility assessments and evidence gathering, hopefully will get to the bottom as to whether there's reasonable suspicion that this is a fraudulent claim. There is case law to support that if there is a determination made that a harassment complaint is made fraudulently with malice, that appropriate disciplinary action up to and including termination can be had. So from an employment perspective, but I wouldn't cross that bridge quickly, right? I mean, I would really make sure that we have a credible, objective finding that this claim was brought fraudulently. If so, though, there is case law to support that the employer says, look, you know, you're out of here, right? That's what you can do as an employer. As the person, as the individual who had those false allegations made against him or her, your redress really is in our legal system. It is through the civil claims that you may have. There are employment attorneys who have now started to make that their specialty, one of which is actually in our region here, and he's very good at it. But it is a civil remedy, not a criminal remedy.
One of the things that I've seen as it relates to concerns of allegations as well as addressing retaliation is prompt investigations. I have a case right now, I was just arguing in front of the California Court of Appeals yesterday, where the investigation took 3.5 years. 3.5 years. I got my law degree in less time than it took the state to investigate a simple issue in the workplace. And so that cuts both ways. It gives the message, we don't care and we don't want your complaints. And so if you're going to complain, it's going to go into a hole and there's going to be no remedial measures. Now, if on the flip side, that the person for whom the complaint was made about, they have an outstanding complaint against them for 3.5 years. So that, of course, is one of the worst I've seen in representing public employees for 20 years. You don't want to have an investigation go on for 3.5 years. But that is going on, and I think having a prompt investigation is key to addressing some of these issues in real time in order to encourage the kind of workplace that you want and discourage concerns, whether those concerns are validated by statistics or not, the concerns about some sort of false reporting, which again, I think false reporting, as indicated by my colleague, is really statistically not an issue.
Well, I appreciate.
I'd just like to echo my fellow panelists in saying that I think our focus should be on fair processes, prompt processes for handling claims, and that benefits both those on both parties. That should be our focus, and that I think we're dealing with situations where it's much more likely that somebody will report and not have their claim taken seriously. That is the real concern right now, as opposed to false accusations. But that both circumstances, a fair process by an independent, neutral entity that reacts promptly benefits everybody.
Thanks, because Ms. Mizell, you at least mentioned the issue of prior complaints, so that if you've got one, but if you've got 4 or 5, or in Weinstein or Toback, you got millions, that's the creeps. Those are the creeps I want to take care of. I want them out of the system, but I don't want someone being the victim of a false complaint. So I'm just trying to find the balance. So I thank you for coming today and answering my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.